Thank you for joining us at the ever-improving No Soundbites Allowed podcast. My name is Michael Vasquez. We thank you for joining us in this adventure of describing the politics that go on in our nation on a personal and local level as often as possible, giving you, the audience, more than just 30 seconds to understand what's going on in our nation. We look forward to joining you as we go. Just sit back, enjoy the ride. Please remember, if you like the episodes, like it, share it, let other people know, and if you can, please donate, even if it's $2, even if it's $5, because it all makes a difference. We thank you, and here we go.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us at No Soundbites Allowed, the favorite podcast on the internet, and with your host, Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier. And I am so happy to be here with you. I thank you, and I appreciate each and every one of you for having been here with us. We're going to have a great episode here today. And I want to talk to you guys. There's a lot that's going on. And let me first start off with, I won't be making my normal Friday podcast because, and that's why I'm doing it today, July 11th, or Wednesday, because on Friday, I have a couple of nonprofits that I work with. In particular, there is the Broome County Adopt-A-Park. They will be, we present movies in parks for families and individuals so they can come out and enjoy the parks in Broome County, as well as being able to see a family-friendly movie with no cost. And it's been very well received. We were in Otsenango Park 2 weeks ago showing Frozen. We had several hundred families there with us. It was a beautiful day, and we had a great time. We're looking at being at Cole Park this Friday, the 13th, and we will be watching the movie Cars. So we do invite everyone to come out and join us to watch this, and it's free, and it's great for families, and we should have a wonderful time there. So that's why I won't be able to do my normal podcast on Friday. In addition, on Sunday, I do want to make people aware, and you may not have heard about this previously, so Newsflash. That's right, there's a newsflash. If you haven't heard about it, the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee is going to be coming to Binghamton, New York. That's Representative David Nunes. He's going to be coming to Binghamton, New York, along with Representative Claudia Tenney. Both members of Congress will be at the Binghamton Holiday Inn on Sunday, the 15th of July at 4 p.m. And they're going to be speaking with the public about many of the issues like the IG reports that are going on in terms of the Russian collusion, the FBI agents and their biases, talking about Hillary Clinton and her emails and the Clinton Foundation and all of these ongoing investigations and how that is affecting you and the public, as well as some of the other bills and issues that are going to be affecting everyone that are in Congress right now or waiting for the Senate to move them forward. So we look forward to seeing that. If people do want to know more about that, I would say contact the campaign for Congresswoman Claudia Tenney for the New York 22nd District, and they can provide you with more information on that. I do believe it's $25 per person coming to the event to speak to hear and speak with both of the candidates. Excuse me, both of the members of Congress, Mr. Nunes and Ms. Tenney. So with that, a little bit of housekeeping out of the way, I do want to explain why I'm on today, Wednesday, July 11th, and I'm doing the podcast because something struck me today, and it just blew my mind. I'm shocked. And so far, when I've talked to everybody I've talked to, they've all had the same response, and they think it's a joke. They think it's funny. You would think it would be funny because it's just insane news. And that is, and it's a little bit of a news flash because it just came out and people just started hearing about this. But essentially, Newsflash. The news that's come out and hit the airwaves so far is that the former mayor of Binghamton, Mr. Matt Ryan, has just put in his petitions and has qualified to run for the Broome County Sheriff seat. So he is the Democratic challenger to the incumbent Republican, who is Sheriff Dave Harder. And Mr. Ryan, let me preface this. I know Matt. I've known Matt for many years now. We've met when I was interviewing him and covering him while he was mayor in Binghamton, New York. And I've spoken with him many times, done interviews with him, quoted him often. And once he left office, when he was out of the office and no longer mayor, I've spoken with him personally many, many times. Some good conversations, some not so good. And because we have very different opposing views of politics, and he is known for being a very boisterous individual when he discusses his politics, especially when he's confronted with someone who doesn't agree. But I will get into that in another moment. But he, as I said, so I know him, and I know that he is run. He is not a police officer. He has never worked as a police officer. He, as I am aware, has never been in the military. But he's running for the Broome County Sheriff anyway, and he is the Democratic challenger for that position. And it is not a requirement for the Broome County Sheriff to actually have any experience as a in law enforcement. I should mention, though, that Mr. Ryan is a former prosecutor, and he has done law practice after leaving the mayor's office. He was representing a Mr. Ramallah Abdullah in 2017, June of 2017. Mr. Abdullah was the gentleman who had stolen he was alleged to have stolen ammunition from a gun store, and police were identified. They investigated, found out that he was in possession. He was homeless, but yet still was in possession of 100 firearms and had no permit for any of those firearms, which is a crime. He was arrested for 5 weapons charges. Mr. Ryan took the case, and he lost. Mr. Abdullah lost. He was found unanimously guilty of 15 weapons charges, plus the underlying petty larceny, the stealing of the ammunition, for 16 charges in total, and was facing 3 to 15 years in jail on this. And Mr. Ryan stated that the reason for the loss was essentially racism and religious bias. He stated that because of Mr. Abdullah's name, because of his skin color, and because of his religion, that's why he lost. Not the fact that the gentleman was in possession of 100 firearms without a actual permit for any of them, which under New York state law, especially New York SAFE Act, which was passed by Governor Cuomo, yet another Democrat that's on the same page as Mr. Ryan, somehow that made it all racial. Don't know how. That's his allegation. And yet a jury of peers found that it violated the law as the law is written. There you go. So that gives you a little bit of background about Mr. Matt Ryan, that he is essentially a far left activist, as he was an activist mayor, promoting far left activities, including Occupy Binghamton, which followed the same idea as the Occupy Wall Street movement, putting up a war clock to try and take on President Bush. He made many statements about the far left policies as a mayor of a city that isn't a far left city. Mayor Ryan is a member of Citizen Action, and I'll get into some of their beliefs and what this all means to you in a moment. But I want to make sure I give a fair and clear understanding of the background of who we're talking about and why this seems so insane. So when you look at it on its face, you have a former mayor who has had no law enforcement experience, no military experience, who recently has been taking on cases based on race and cases that he believed were about race and religious bias, which were in fact about safety of the public and enforcement of law as it is written, not the same thing. And so you can understand how many people find it somewhat incredulous that he's running for this office. And it makes you wonder, is this a joke? But it's not. The Board of Elections did announce that Mr. Ryan submitted his petitions. He did get enough signatures from Democrats, Citizen Action, far left, whomever he went to, all of them in the Democratic Party, that allowed him to be able to run for whatever reason that he's running. And I'll get into that in just a moment. But it made me think when I was reading this and listening to his comments, why would he do this? I mean, it makes no sense. Why would someone in the far left? It's like it is someone from Black Lives Matter. It is someone from Antifa saying, I want to run the police force. It is someone who says that I believe in the government has more power, has all the power, and gives rights to the people. And therefore, I want to be the head of the police department. It's saying that someone believes that there should be equity of opportunity, that everyone gets the same result. So if you were at a casino and we're all rolling dice, white, black, male, female, transgender, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, everybody gets the exact same roll of the dice. Everyone rolls the dice. Everyone gets sevens. That's it. Everyone gets it. The game is rigged. Everyone gets the same win. And of course, everyone also gets the same result. And because everyone is getting the same result, it's not a big win. It may not even be considered a win. Everyone just gets the same result. So why would someone who believes in that, as I understand it, and this is from my understanding of it, why would that person run for sheriff? It doesn't make sense. I mean, the key thing to think of is protect and serve. That's the position. That's what the police do. They protect and serve the public. But if you have, before I get into that, I'm going to come back on the protect and serve. But first, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back, and I'll go over what I'm talking about in terms of the mission and how I see this coming together, because it has ramifications across the nation on the local level, in the state, and the federal level. And I think it's affecting everyone. Just not everyone is aware of it because it's not really well spoken about. But we'll talk about that in just a moment.
I ain't had your waist. I don't even remember how you taste on my lips. Used to be something I needed. Now I see I had a reason. I was bummed out, stressed out, yeah. I think you made me feel the best I had. For a minute I thought I needed you. Now I'm seeing through all of the reasons that I made up in my head. I'm breaking the habit. I'm breaking the habit. I'm breaking the habits that I had, 'cause of where it's got me. Searching for myself, didn't know I lost me. I ain't no saint. Let the devil have a way. I regret it every day. I was bummed out, stressed out, yeah. I think you made me feel the best I had. For a minute my head. I'm breaking the habit. I'm breaking the habit. I'm breaking the I'm breaking the habit. I'm breaking the habit. I'm breaking the I'm breaking the habit. I'm breaking the
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us back here at the No Soundbites Allowed podcast with your host, Michael Voss, the Dragon of the Southern Tier. I'm very happy to have you here. I'm always happy to speak with you, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation. I also want to thank my friend Matthew Cornwell, who was just singing. You just heard him in the break, and I think it's a great song. He had a great album. Icarus is the album, and, you know, Matt, thank you for giving me the rights to be able to play your music here. I enjoy it, and give me more songs so I can put more of them on. Now, that being said, let me move forward. When I left off in the last segment, we were talking about Matt Ryan, who is a member of Citizen Action, the far left. He is a believer in social justice, and he is running for, he's running for the position of the Broome County Sheriff, which seems absolutely, besides laughable, it also seems diametrically opposed to his viewpoints. Because looking at the viewpoints of Black Lives Matters, looking at Citizen Action, the far left, political leaders of tomorrow, Antifa, none of these groups come to mind when you think of law and order. I mean, I'll give you a great example. On Citizen Action, one of their candidates in 2017, just last year, a little bit less than a year ago, they had Dan Livingston. Dan Livingston was running for the county clerk position. And in that race, Dan Livingston, who was a member, he's part of Citizen Action, supported by Citizen Action as well. He actually he broke election law. Okay. And he admitted this himself. He admitted this it was on Spectrum News, when he made the statement on November 7th, the day before the election. He came out and he had sent out a postcard which was false and categorically broke the law. Okay. And when I say the law, I mean, according to Regulation 6201.1 Fair Campaign Code, also found under the New York State Board of Elections, Section 3-103 of the election law. That's exactly what he broke. 3-106 of the election law of the state of New York. He violated sections B and D. B being political practices involving subversion or undermining political parties or the electoral process. In addition, he also violated D, which is any act intended to hinder or prevent any eligible person from registering to vote, enrolling to vote, or voting. Please look it up. I'll have it in the notes. I have that link there so you can look it up yourself. But that is what he admitted he broke. He broke the law, Dan Livingston. But yet, Dan Livingston is currently running to become city councilman of the city of Binghamton for the 2nd District. It's shocking. He got the signatures from the Democrats. Apparently, the Democratic Party doesn't care whether or not you break the law. Well, that's not a surprise. We saw a precedent with that back in 2016. Hillary Clinton broke the law. And I'm sorry, folks. You don't have to agree with me. You can vote any way you want. You can believe anything you want. That's up to you. This is just, I present facts and I ask questions and I make conclusions based on those facts and those questions. And the fact is that if you destroyed documents that were subpoenaed and you had to present to Congress and you destroyed those documents, you would be in jail. If you destroyed classified documents or you gave the classified documents to another individual, no matter who that other individual was, you would be in jail. We know this because many people have been put in jail for doing exactly that. Hillary Clinton is not. So, and she also got to run for president. So she got to break the law, and the Democratic Party was perfectly fine with that. Dan Livingston broke the law by his, and in this case, by his own admission to the news media on live news, and he's running for another election. I just don't understand it. But that gives you an idea in the sense of both fair play, the willingness to win at any cost, and the deception that's being done against the public by many members of Citizen Action. I can't say all of them, but many of the leadership of Citizen Action, of Black Lives Matters, of Antifa, they're out there misrepresenting a lot of things, including the fact that they're not necessarily Democrats. Many of them call themselves, that they would say they're not Democrats, they're progressives, which is also, if you're looking at, in the case of Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, what progressive means is democratic socialist, which I take to mean communist, because there is no difference. In much the same way that the National Socialists are also communist of a bent, these are also the same thing, communists. And having lived in Russia for a year and a half as they went through their civil war in Tbilisi and the fighting there, I definitely believe it's a communist movement. That's my personal thought. So again, why would Matt Ryan want to do this? I mean, is it because he's being like Dan Livingston, where he's just perpetrating a lie against the public and hoping that they don't know, that people just didn't realize that he's doing something against their wishes, that he's involved in looking for social justice and not, as I mentioned at the end, the purpose of law enforcement, which is to protect and serve the public. That, at the end of the day, is all public law enforcement. That's what their job is. But Matt Ryan doesn't have any law enforcement experience. He doesn't have any military experience. He's been a lawyer, which is not the same thing. And he operates from a viewpoint with a political goal and agenda of socialism. So what could it be? Well, there's, like I said, two things. So the one thing is he's out there and he's perpetrating a misrepresentation to the public, that this is his means to be able to push forward an agenda, to be able, as he says, when he said, and you may believe this more than anything else, because it's his words, he said to, I have it here in front of me, and when he was speaking to WBNG today, July 11th, he stated that I've paid close attention to social justice issues in the area. I was a very zealous public defender, and I've been watching what's been going on at the jail. And my biggest concern are what's going on at the jail, and I think we need new leadership, end quote. That's Matt Ryan speaking to WBNG today about why he's running. Really? And he's, by the way, just also for full disclosure, he's working under the Working Family Party. The Working Family Party is the political wing of Citizen Action, which is the activist wing of it, which is also part of Black Lives Matter, which is a further subsect of Citizen Action. And then there's Antifa, which is a subsect of Black Lives Matter. So it gives you an idea of that. But so he's just said that, and it says it all right there. I paid close attention to social justice issues in the area. When Matt Ryan says that, there's only one thing to take. I mean, he's after social justice. Social justice. Mind you, if you look at the Penal Code of New York State, you will not see social justice. It doesn't exist. If you look at the Constitution, if you look at the amendments, there is no such thing as social justice. In fact, it is a made-up term. There is a such thing as justice, and that's what the Penal Code of New York State, the Constitution, and the amendments, and many of our laws are all based on. Justice. Social justice is about feelings. It is a made-up term to justify when a elitist group of individuals has taken individuals, grouped them together as a category, and ranked those categories based on arbitrary differences like skin color, sexuality, sexual preference, religion, and ethnicity. So today, a transgender is more important than a white woman. But at the same time, an illegal alien kid is more important than transgender most of the time, except in 2009 when they weren't important at all, or in 2016. They weren't important at all. So, and that's, again, look at the law. 2009, President Obama promised that he would pass comprehensive immigration reform. He had a supermajority, could pass any bill that he wanted. He passed two things. The Obama stimulus, which failed by his own categories and identification. And then he also failed. He also passed Obamacare, which has nothing to do with immigration. And that's what he did. And he threw the immigrants away. That's just what it is. That's the fact. So you may not like it, some people, but that's what it is. So we're looking at this and we say, all right, it's confusion. Where's the protect and serve? Social justice isn't in there. There is no, to provide social justice to the public. No, it's to protect and serve. Not to protect some people sometimes, or to serve some people sometimes. No, it's to protect and serve the public. So why is he in this position? Well, because it's to promote the political agenda. It's to promote social justice. It's to be able to make people feel like something is going on, when in fact what's being done is socialism. It is an agenda. It is an advancement of an agenda. So literally, that means under social justice, certain crimes can be disallowed and not considered crimes and not followed up because they were done by a person of color or a woman or some other minority group, especially if it was done against someone who is not considered a minority group, which would be a white male or perhaps a white woman, or depending on your rankings on any given day, it could be a transgendered versus an illegal alien. It could be a black person versus a transgendered. Depending on who's in favor at the time, they all have different rankings depending on how people feel. So he's trying to move that forward. And that is the goal. I mean, that's what we hear from Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez as a democratic socialist, that she is looking to give people, take their power away, but give them things for it. It's kind of like Bernie Sanders, who is in a self-avowed socialist, who wants the state, the government, to be able to have all the power and to give it to people. So that's why he can say, well, the government's going to give you a job. Everyone gets a job. And everyone has a minimum wage. And everyone has equity, the equality of outcome. As I was mentioning before in the casino, everyone's going to roll a 7. That doesn't mean anyone wins anything. It just means that everyone gets to roll the dice and everyone gets a 7. Yay. But you get nothing for it. Because the government has everything. And the government may decide that your group today deserves something, or maybe it won't. So that's their wonderful package to sell their goods, the goods being socialism. Now, I did say there was perhaps something else that Mayor Ryan was trying to achieve with this. Maybe, for some reason, he believes that, perhaps he thinks that he can do the job. Maybe he thinks he can. Maybe he thinks that the purpose of a sheriff at a county level is to be able to go out there and dispense protection to some, service to some of the time. Maybe that's what he believes. Maybe he believes that's what the purpose of the sheriff is. I don't agree. I don't think anyone does. And I just can't understand why the Democratic Party would want to even put him in that position. And by all means, Citizen Action is the Democratic Party. Working Family Party is the Democratic Party. They may call themselves progressive. The progressives are part of the Democratic Party. Socialists are part of the Democratic Party. And according to Tom Perez of the Democratic National Committee, guess what? Socialism is the future. Socialism is the future. The social justice and the social justice warriors like Mayor Ryan are the future of the Democratic Party. So that's the direction they're going in. Now, I know I'm going through a lot of things here, and I'm trying to cover a lot of different issues to try and give you a very broad but very clear view of what's at stake here. Because this is at stake to many people throughout the entire nation. It's not just in Binghamton. And that's why I'm mentioning. That's why you have Bernie Sanders. That's why you have Ms. Cortez. Why we have Hillary Clinton. This is not just happening in Binghamton, New York. And it's not just happening at the top of the nation, in the headline leaders. This is pervasive throughout the entire nation. And we're seeing this. We're seeing this in 2017 when Binghamton University has a class that says to stop white people. Actually, it was the Binghamton course was hashtag stop white people 2K16. There's an article. I'll include that along with all the other links on this. That's it. That's the programming. That's the message that, they believe in. Part of the social justice is that some people, by the way they were born, must apologize to everyone else. That you are worth less than someone else because of the skin that you were born in, or the religion that you have, or anything. That there's a ranking to people. That is their argument. And I just don't agree with that. I think that's wrong. And they do believe in this equality of outcome, this equity that the government somehow is obligated to provide it to you. You can look at, I had a discussion with Black Lives Matters in 2016 with Larry Parham of the Working Families Party, who, and there's video, you can look at the video, it's never been edited, where he's talking about equity, that the government must provide equity, when he was asked to show me anywhere in the Constitution or any of the amendments where this equity exists, any line that would show that. There is none. He does make a statement towards the pursuit of happiness, but you know what? For me to try and be happy, to have an equal opportunity to be happy, is not the same thing as to say I am guaranteed being happy. There is no guarantee. That's not life. And that's definitely not the Constitution. And that's definitely not our government. We have to, yes, we all should be equal to try things. Whether we succeed or not is up to us. And that's the way it should be. But according to Working Family Party, Citizen Action, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, the answer is no. The decision's already done. You're going to get exactly the same result. The result has already been provided before you even try. That's not a good thing. So, and I want to provide people this information so that you can make your own decision. Understand exactly where Matt Ryan is coming from and the viewpoints that he's promoting and what this social justice that he's had his eye on, what does it really mean? What does it really mean? What does it mean if he were a sheriff? That he's going to take something from you to give to someone else? That he's going to take away your rights to give them to someone else? He's going to take your possessions to give it to someone else with the full power of law enforcement behind him? That he wants to instruct and teach other officers to stop white people and make them apologize for being white just because of the way they were born? By the way, that's a racist statement. That is a racist ideal. To persecute a group of individuals on the basis of the color of their skin is racism, period. Look up the definition. That is the definition. And just like with social justice, justice is a term. Justice is what the Constitution is based on. Social justice is what people like Antifa created to justify what they do. When you say that racism is based on people who are the oppressors or who are oppressed, I'm sorry. No, you're changing the definition to justify what you do. That isn't the definition. But you would have an argument with Mayor Matt Ryan, former Mayor Matt Ryan, if you were to have this conversation. And I do suggest people, if you want him to be your sheriff, have this conversation and ask him. Ask him about this. I think it would be very informative, and someone should talk to him about it. What does this social justice mean? How is that legislated? How would that be enforced under law? But you know what? Let me take another quick break, and then we'll come back and finish up the segment as quickly as possible. There's a lot of stuff I want to get through in the next segment, but we'll be right back in just a moment. Hello, everyone. We're back again. It was just a little short break. And so I do want to pick up right where I left off. So this is all important because it's going to affect everyone across the country. This race is just one example of what we're seeing across the nation in 2018. And you have a choice. You can vote for it or against it. That's up to you. I'm not telling you to vote for or against it. I'm just trying to give you information as I understand it based on the facts that are there, not in 30 seconds and not with bullet points, but with detail, so that you can make up your mind. And if you want, you can ask Matt Ryan or other socialists or Antifa, Black Lives Matters, if you can find them, and ask them about this and find out the truth for yourself, as I have myself. But I want to give you an example here of how dangerous this is and what you're seeing across the nation. So let's say that you're in one of the states that either has passed or is considering to pass a red flag law, sometimes also known as an ERPO or an extreme risk protection order. Right? And currently in New York State, there are 5 of these bills, 5, which I've already spoken about previously in the past. There are 5 of these bills that are pending. And we know that Tom Perez believes socialism is the future of the Democratic National Party. We know that. He said so. And we know that that encompasses the progressive movement, the socialist movement of citizen action, Black Lives Matter, and Antifa. Okay. So let's say that for some reason there is, a full moon out, a black hole appears and everyone loses their minds and Matt Ryan wins somehow the nomination and he becomes the Broome County Sheriff. And at the same time, somehow Governor Cuomo gets reelected and he pushes through the red flag laws. And just as a quick summary, what does a red flag law do? It means that a police officer can go to the court, say that you are unfit, you are a danger to yourself and or the public, and they will get a warrant from the court, show up at your door, and at that moment tell you you're going to lose all your guns. You've never been notified beforehand. The police went directly to the court, never said a word to you. They went to the court, they got a warrant, show up at your door, kick it down, take your guns. You're now notified as they're taking your guns away. And if you have kids in the household, CPS has to be notified, Child Protective Services. So they would have been notified the moment that the police officer got the warrant. They would have been told, they would have come along, and they would take your children away because you are a danger so great that the government had to actually take your firearms from you. And you then have 1 year to spend an exorbitant amount of money to try and prove that the government was wrong, that the police officer was wrong, and that you're not a danger to yourself and the community. And that doesn't count the cost that it's going to be and the process involved in trying to get your kids back from this government that had just taken them away. This actually exists and it's going on right now in 9 states. And there's another 6 states. It's existent currently in 6 states with 11 states that are pending at some level. So that's the scenario, okay? Let's say that that's happened. So you got Matt Ryan, Mr. Citizen Action, social justice warrior. He's in office. He's sitting there as the sheriff. You've got Governor Cuomo. He's getting ready for 2020, and he passes the red flag law saying this is all going to be good for the public. This is all for the public good. Yay. And then Matt Ryan, as sheriff, decides that his political opponent, which would be, I'll use myself as an example, Michael Voss, he doesn't like my podcast. He doesn't like something that I say, pointing out that he's promoting socialist ideas. He doesn't like that I've said that publicly. He goes to the court and says, hey, Mike's a danger to himself and others. I want a warrant. We're going to go into his house and take all his firearms. Wow. Isn't that an abuse of power? Isn't that an abuse of power? But as a social justice warrior, that would be the right thing to do. Under the social justice warrior mantra, he would be right to do that because there should be an equal outcome. No one should have any guns. That's the equal outcome. And so this allows him to take away firearms. And by the way, Matt Ryan doesn't believe everyone should have firearms. You can have a very, very long conversation with him about that. I already have. And Matt would prefer to see no one have firearms based on what he's told me. If I'm misunderstanding your position there, Matt, please come on. Please explain yourself. Go on publicly and speak to people publicly about this, but you can also come on here and I'll give you as much time as you would like to clarify this if I've misrepresented your position. I don't want to do that. But my understanding is that he would follow. He is a anti-Second Amendment advocate. Now, question is, if that's the case, what can you do about it? See, if you don't vote, it is possible that that scenario happens. And instead of it being Matt Ryan in Binghamton, it could be, Joe anybody in your town or your city or your state. And instead of it being Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier, with his podcast, it's you and your home. It's your kids that are going to be taken away. It's your firearms that are going to be taken away. It's your rights and your life that is being taken away because someone said the government is more powerful than you are and that you don't have any rights. You don't get due process. That social justice is more important than anything you have. That you aren't an individual. You're part of a group. And that group you're in, well, that's something else. See, my group would be, yes, I'm a Black Hispanic, but I'm also Republican. So that means my group as Republican is more important than me being Black or Hispanic, and far more important than me being Michael Voss. And that means the same thing could happen to you. So you could be a woman, but that's not as important as some other category you may fall into. So they will be justified, and it will be social justice to take away your rights. Or you could be gay, or a man, a woman, white, Black, Christian, Jewish, Taoist. It doesn't matter. If they put you into the right category, your rights are not as important as social justice, and therefore they will take your rights away. That is the fear. That's why this is serious. That's why it's important. You may not agree with me. You may not think this is the right answer, and that's okay. But do you know for sure? Can you tell me that won't happen? Can you tell me for sure that you know enough about your candidates in your area, especially those candidates who are promoting socialism, and whether they call it democratic socialism or communism or Antifa or citizen action, whatever name they put to it? Do you know enough about your candidate to know whether or not this is possible, that they would promote this, that they would take away your rights on these reasons? If you can't say that absolutely yes or no, you need to find out. And if you think this is crazy, that this whole thing is insane, which I agree, then you should vote. In fact, also I should say, if you do agree with this, if you agree with the Matt Ryans of the world, if you agree with the social justice warriors of the world, if you believe that the government is more powerful than the individual and that there are no individual people, but you're groups, and you're based on whatever group you're in, and that you should be treated according to that group, then you should vote for Matt Ryan, whether it's the Matt Ryan here in Binghamton or somewhere else. I'm not going to tell you not to, because America's still free, and you have the freedom to vote any way you want. But what I do tell you is, are you sure? Are you sure? It's a lot to think about. I hope I've made this clear. I hope it isn't too much of a rant. I've tried to get in a lot of information, and it deserves more than just 30 seconds. It can't be said in just a soundbite. It needs to be said more fully. That's what this program is about. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to agree. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be able to get it all out as clearly, as concisely as I can. There's only so much time in the day. But hopefully I've done so, and hopefully you'll find it of interest. I look forward to hearing what everyone has to say about this. Please do let me know your thoughts, and I look forward to speaking to you at the next No Soundbites Allowed podcast. Thank you.
I bring the matches, you bring the gasoline. Let's do it right, oh let's make a scene. There's no survivors, no survivors on this road we're on. Lead me astray, you little pussycat. Let's take this day and make it a disaster. Oh, I know what you're after. Happily ever after ain't a joke to you. You still the hand, won the night. Yes, Lord, will you please spare this life? He said no. There's no survivors on this road. Bring the matches, you bring the gasoline. Let's do it right, oh let's make a scene. There's no survivors, no survivors on this road. No survivors, no survivors on this road we're on.